So I just want to welcome everyone. Welcome to Nexa Space. I'm really happy to see all of you here today. Today is a very special day. Yesterday we had our first halving, so that's something that is a really amazing moment for us. I think that moments like these are important because they give us a reason to pause, look back at how far things have come, and also look forward at what is being built next. So today talk will not be too formal. I want this to feel like a real conversation with the team. We'll talk a bit about halving, where Nexa stands today, what's currently being worked on, and what the next chapter could look like. So I really want to thank everybody from the team for joining, and thanks everybody from the community for listening. So let's have a nice, open, relaxed, and enjoyable conversation. So when we look at the moment of the halving itself, before we go to the roadmap or the bigger technical topics, I think it's really important to take a second and reflect on what just happened. So now that the next first halving has happened, how does this moment feel to you personally? And how would you explain what just happened in simple terms to someone newer to Nexa or crypto? Does this feel like a technical milestone or something more meaningful for the project? Anybody who wants to talk is free to start.
I think I'll jump in here. So thanks for arranging this call, and it's really good opportunity, as you say, to look back and see what we've been doing. And 4 years is a substantial amount of time in crypto. And when we started in June 2022, there was always a risk that we wouldn't see this point. And we're actually a lot stronger now than we were at the beginning when we just had a small team of 5 people, 6 people, and now we're about 20 people. So Nexa, in terms of manpower, woman power, is much stronger than it was at the time. So it is a milestone for that. And just looking at it technically, I think we can all be quite confident that technically it would work. Obviously, we saw it in the test net a couple of weeks ago because the test net's in advance of the main net, but also because Nexa traces its software origins back to Bitcoin itself, which has had probably about 4 halvings now, which have all worked perfectly. So we would expect our own Nexa coin to do exactly the same thing, and that has happened. What was interesting with Bitcoin with its first halving in 2012 is that that was really the start of a lot of interest and adoption at that point. Prior to that, it was experimental. So it was November 2012. And I mean, actually, just personally, when you think of a personal moment, I actually found out about Bitcoin a few days after that halving. And that was, just one of the people who started to ride the wave of interest at that time. So the Nexa halving is actually quite a major moment because I believe that we're stronger, much stronger than we were before in terms of the team's skills, and where we are with the software, having done quite a lot of upgrades to the software itself, the actual network as well. So that's what it means personally for me is just a milestone that we're on the right track.
Yeah, definitely. It's I would dare to say after the actual launching, I think this is one of the most important milestones that we had in Nexa history. Does anybody else wants to add up something?
I'll just say that the drop, obviously, to 5 million next as a block reward is actually quite significant, because I know a lot of people here are interested in the effect on the price. And there is no doubt that the first 4 years are the toughest for a coin which has a 4-year halving, because we've literally got 50% of the Nexa coins are now mined and in circulation and holdings on exchanges. So that's a huge amount, 50% in the first 4 years. So the fact that the coin issuance is now into the tail process is actually quite important for reducing the amount that literally gets dumped on the exchanges. And as we start rolling out new applications, get new users, it will certainly help with the coin making progress in terms of its price chart. So I'll just say that up front because I know a lot of people are interested in that.
I think that really puts the moment into perspective. It's not just about block or event, but it's about Nexa reaching an important point in its history. Cutting back on the rewards will be a huge relief for the network itself. So, what else do you think that people should understand about halvings without turning it into an actual hype?
Andrea, is your microphone working now?
It seems so that I'm back. Do you guys hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, yeah, sorry. I must have missed your last question though. I just pick up just the last few words. But I just wanted to share with you guys that I'm very happy for the milestone that we achieved. 4 years went by very quickly because we put a lot of effort in this project. And when we are doing something that you like and you are very focused on, times fly by. And then this is what happened to me, at least for in this case. And yeah, as I was saying before, this is a symbolical event. Like it was known in advance that our emission schedule where they were the way it was supposed since Genesis block every 4 years, more or less, we would have thing of the block reward like Bitcoin did. But seeing it, live happening in testnet before and in mainnet today, earlier today, it is different thing. Even though it is something that it is always thrilling, at least for me. Anyway, this is a major milestone for all the economical and then economic incentives wise things for the project, and it demonstrate that we are here for 4 years and we are still kicking with a lot of new thing in the pipeline, Tailstorm, new proof of work, and all the things that we were going to talk about today. Or this evening, morning. It depends in what time zone do you live. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So, from the technical perspective, from the developer's viewpoint, so what actually changed in the network after the halving? I know it's just cutting the reward in half, but could you explain the process behind it a bit more for people who would like to understand?
So yes, in Nexa, we determined the emission schedule, the Nexa coins before the Genesis block, which was the first block that has been mined. And so we know that every more or less 4 years, it depends on the rate of the network fluctuates. But on average, every 4 year, the halving of the block rewards will happen, which means that in the first year, we will have 10 million Nexa coin per block in rewards. After 4 year, those become enough. Another 4 year, another 50% reduction. And this for sure has a lot of implication on the movement, the value in terms of fiat money. And in the beginning, you have to sustain a bigger inflation than even the fiat money has. But the fact that we know that what is the curve of the emission, even in the economic sense, gives gives the market time to adjust accordingly to the policy, the emission policy of the network. Technically, there's nothing more than that. Like, I mean, it's just a function. If you look at the source code of the Nexa full node, the code that took care of the determining the block reward is like few lines of code. There's nothing complicated. The real thing is um, the influence that those of code have on the economy of the token economy of the system itself, which is almost the same as Bitcoin has. Rather than having 21 million coin, we have 21 trillion, if I'm counting correctly. And yeah, that's the kernel of it.
I agree. I think that these 4 years before us were make it or break it moment, and I think that we actually did make a lot in these 4 years. So now that we've touched the halving, I think it really makes sense to zoom out and look at Nexa today. So a lot has changed over the last few years, and it would be really good to hear how the team sees that evolution. So looking at Nexa today compared to where it was 4 years ago, what has changed the most, and what makes Nexa different today from the project people first discovered?
Well, we have 4 years of battle tested code base that lived and survived roads business, because it is, putting out consensus software in the wild. It's not an easy business, in my opinion, and we proved to ourselves that what we're doing, which is not only a replication of what Jacob has done. There is a lot of new things, seminal works that we put into the protocol. There are a lot of, even for the first network upgrade that we made here, we made a lot of changes that improved ability of our scripting system, which was already very, very futureful if you compare with other scripting system like the one of Bitcoin, for example. And yeah, even the capability of the network has increased. We made tons of changes to not only increase the performance of the code base, but the robustness of it. We tested it like in real time and in real life, if you will, because there are plenty of nodes out there that are running in concert. If you they are following all of them, they're following the same consensus rules, and they are marching together, trying to add a new block every 2 minutes. And then but at the same time, all the improvement that we made and all the robustness that we had to the code base, it's very telling for the effort and then the results that we produce in these 4 years. And more is coming in the pipeline. More are almost ready to go, because we are on the verge of releasing a new Nexa full node version that will implement a set of new protocol features in the for the protocol, for the Nexa protocol. Main one that come to mind are Tailstorm, for example, modification to the proof of work. There are plenty of things that is going to happen, and then we are very eager to release that and to see it activated on the network.
Thank you for that. It was really inspiring to hear what you have to say. Does anybody else want to add up something?
Yes, I'll just also say that in terms of where we were 4 years ago, Sigpig's absolutely right. The software is a lot more robust. The amount of refinements that have gone in is absolutely phenomenal. And I just want to compliment Peter Shipper, who is the quiet man of our team, who just gets on and just
Indeed.
does phenomenal work. We've taken the original Bitcoin software and turned a small car into a racing car or a truck, as you can just think of whatever analogy you like, but we've benchmarked it to 60,000 transactions a second across from home nodes across the world, and just the scalability is phenomenal. And when we look at the opcodes, the scripting language, we've got loops, registers, introspection, all sorts of things which are missing from Bitcoin, because Bitcoin won't do the hard fork changes needed to get these kinds of advances done quickly and efficiently. And so this coin is just phenomenal compared to Bitcoin. What we're missing is the users. But yes, that's where we are 4 years on. It's a technical triumph, and now we're well poised for the next 4 years is building out the ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree. So what do people usually miss when they look at Nexa only from the outside? And also, what part of Nexa do you think people only appreciate once they look deeper? I know that the community is not particularly concerned about the technical stuff, but I know that a lot of stuff that uh, our developers are working behind the scenes is what actually makes Nexa stand out.
I've got
Yeah,
some thoughts on that,
yeah,
if
please.
that's okay. Um,
But
I think one of the things that gets missed from the outside is like that this is a long-term project. Um, so many people are looking for just short-term gains or something quick, something that's going to pique everybody's interest really quickly, and then ultimately those projects disappear. This project, like Bitcoin, is here for the next decade and decades and 50 years and 100 years, and that's what we're building and you know trying to give to the world as a project that has absolute longevity, um, and to still be around in 50 years and 100 years. And I don't think a lot of people in crypto don't sort of think of projects that way. That's what came to mind anyway to me when you said what do you think people miss.
I agree totally. Does anybody else want to add something?
Yeah, sure. I'll say something. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So kind of adding on to what's already been said. Looking at where Nexa was 4 years ago versus today. I was not involved with Nexa 4 years ago. It's just over the last couple of years I've started to become more involved, and so I can say from what's already been talked about, I believe, I don't know, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the initial thought was that this blockchain was going to be launched and it was going to kind of fly under the radar in a quiet manner while applications and use cases were being created for it. From what I understand, the original profitability of the mining at the beginning kind of attracted attention that wasn't necessarily expected, and now we're kind of back at this inflection point, or this turning point, where, as Solek said, more than 50% of our coins have been mined already. So from this point on, um, that inflationary effect is going to be smaller and smaller as time goes forward. So again, coins not being dumped on exchanges, forcing the price lower. I think when there was an initial attraction to Nexa at the outset, which was somewhat unexpected, a lot of users came in and said, hey, besides the profitability of mining this coin, what is available? And there wasn't necessarily tools or applications or use cases ready at that point. Being one of the people that works behind the scenes, I know there's a certain amount that the community does see in the public repositories. There's also private projects that are being built. There's multiple applications that I find to be very interesting use cases for Nexa, ones that should draw a lot of users to the platform. And some of these applications are simple proof of concepts. They fully work, they're operational, but maybe we don't bring those to market. Some of these are applications that that we will bring immediately to market and draw a user base in. But I think with where we're at right now, there's kind of a perfect storm of the halving just cut in half all of the coins that are coming to exchanges and trying to be sold to cover mining costs. And with the hard fork coming up and the mining algorithm kind of resetting, it's probably going to be quite a bit more profitable to mine Nexa temporarily in the near future after the hard fork. And with an influx of people all of a sudden becoming interested due to that, I think the new people who are all of a sudden aware of, hey, Nexa is a profitable chain to mine on, let me check it out. I think in the coming months, those people who are new to the platform are going to see there's actually a lot of use cases for Nexa. There's going to be applications, games, enterprise use cases. I think this time when there's all of a sudden more attention drawn to the Nexa blockchain, I think we are going to be ready to handle that attention in a way that will retain users on our blockchain rather than people coming in looking for a quick profit and exiting because there's no specific use cases that interest them at that time. So that's my perspective of where we're at with things.
Thank you, David, for those reflections. And I think what's really, really important to point out is even though the halving happened and the rewards were cut in half, I think that work behind the scenes probably like quadrupled in the last year, if not more. So I think that's really important, and that's really something that's this year is going to push us really, really hard. So while we are there, so now we are moving into what's currently being built, and there's a lot happening across the roadmap. As you said, not all of it is immediately visible from the outside. So some of the most important work is deep infrastructure work. So my main question here is that a lot of work happening across the roadmap, especially around 2026, which is hard fork and mining changes. So when you look at all these areas together, what do they tell us where Nexa is heading? So why are these protocol level improvements important for Nexa's next stage? Anybody who wants to say, please do.
I'll just kick off with that. So as we've been saying, we've spent 4 years improving Nexa, and really this coming hard fork, which I know was intended for the end of Q1, and it is delayed a few months, unfortunately, but we want to just do more rigorous testing. These improvements will kind of close out basically the vast majority of changes for the actual network itself, the base layer, the full node network software would be you could argue that it's pretty much complete, and what would follow after that would be small changes. Well, when we say small changes, we've still got big changes planned for early next year, which such as quantum resistant addresses and the UTXO commitment. So there is changes which are sound big, and they are big, but the bulk of the changes will be done with the coming hard fork for the full node network. And the beauty of that is it means that we can then focus on applications, a team created Bitcoin Unlimited sponsored applications which will run on Nexa. And I think that's what a lot of coins fail to achieve, is that there is a technical team that can launch the coin, but there's just not, they don't have enough resources to actually create applications that can drag in real world users. Now, once we finish with our next hard fork, we'll have a lot more spare time and capability to focus even more on our applications. And we will talk about that a little bit later in this call, about how we're going to try and get engagement in users through specific industry conferences as well. But that's what I see with these protocol level changes, is effectively completing the coin with the next hard fork.
Yeah, it seems to me that whenever we're building something, we always have a much bigger plan in the background what we're going to build next, and it's always bigger than what we build right now. Does anybody else wants to reflect on that?
I would like to say a few words. It seems that in the recent time, a lot of effort has been put into creating applications, like real life applications with Nexa, and this really demonstrates that it's robust, it's universal, it allows you to create games. Like fair betting systems, and everything works as it, like, as the team claimed it should. So the fees are low, the transactions are fast, etc. And I think that's kind of really a showcase of showcase of the quality of the software and of the blockchain, and like the effort the team puts into improving it continuously throughout the years, and demonstrating the tech.
Thank you, Arsene. It's very good to hear new people in the team. I mean, they're not new, but they are new to speaking. So does anybody else wants to add up something? I have another question concerning this matter. How does the mining algorithm change works for the long-term decentralization of Nexa?
I think it's a very interesting topic, and it all comes down to different types of hardware used to mine cryptocurrency, and the availability of this hardware is actually a threat to some of the networks. For example, if there's an ASIC that some company has developed and is using for mining, and it doesn't sell it to anybody, there's a risk that they will kind of take over the network. So by ensuring that this doesn't happen, we need to make sure that no particular party can do that quickly enough, and so that like more people, more companies have access to mining hardware using field programmable gate arrays, FPGAs, which are readily available for everybody in equal, almost equal amount. So that's kind of an important, a very interesting way to protect the network from these kind of events.
Thank you, Arseny. That's a great point. Does anybody else wants to add up something?
Yeah, I think early in when I first sort of heard about Bitcoin and got into Bitcoin around 2013, there was a vibrant mining community, and mining was within the reach of everybody. And as you can see, with the Bitcoin, mining with the advent of the ASICs really is out of reach of a lot of people. Like if somebody wants to mine, they've got to spend a lot of money on very expensive equipment. That equipment becomes obsolete. That equipment uses lots of power. So really, a lot of the mining just was moved out of the hands of everyday people into these well-funded organizations that could then mine. I'm really excited for the upcoming hard fork and mining changes to see that vision of really moving that back to the people and back so that everyday people can get into mining and can um, be profitable and mine on the network. Um, will big players come in? Sure, that's always going to happen. Um, but I think with mining within the reach of everyday people, that just encourages a lot more people to do it. That's a lot more people that gives you a lot more distribution on your network and decentralization. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the changes that are coming.
Thank you, Steven. Solex, you wanted to add something up also?
Yes, I'll just speak a little bit more about the decentralization. Is that the new algorithm will favor CPUs to begin with, and when people use GPUs, they'll probably only get, I believe, a 2 to 3 times speed uplift, if even reaching that. So it means that there will be a phenomenal number of people who can participate in the mining landscape. And that's how it was, as David mentioned, back in 2022. We did want to fly under the radar for a few years, getting the full node network software upgraded as much as we could. But we were discovered by the GPU miners, and the GPU mining community is huge. And that created a lot of interest straight away in the first 6 months. So we're actually going to revitalize that kind of enthusiasm again, and it won't just be GPU because they pushed out the CPU miners. CPU mining will be viable. Whether it will be very profitable remains to be seen, but the GPU miners will be there. And then when the FPGAs come along, which they inevitably will, that hardware we will have our own hardware that we will also make available to the community to purchase. But there will be other providers who will also create hardware, and many FPGA miners will join as well. So the landscape will remain decentralized. And then you say, well, what about the ASICs? Because they could come along and we could wind up with a similar situation like today. But what we can do is we can rotate the algorithm seed for the mining without a hard fork release. And that will keep the ASICs at bay long term and make sure that FPGAs is as far as the network can go in terms of mining, and that will maintain the decentralization long term. That's the plan.
Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate your wisdom and experience. And I think that going back to roots and to original CPU and GPU mining is the correct thing to do. If anybody wants to add up something, please do, or we move on to a theme that's probably something a lot of communities really excited about. Okay, so there is one topic, it comes up really often, but it can be hard for people to fully understand, and that's Tailstorm. We get a lot of questions about the Tailstorm in the community. So it is technical, but it's also the reason why it matters is because it's directly connected to Nexa's long-term scaling direction. So my question here is, for people who are not developers, how would you explain why Tailstorm matters for Nexa? And also, what does Tailstorm aim to improve in the network?
Well, a lot of things. Tailstorm is a mix of two other protocols with something else added on top. The two protocols they are called Bobtail and Storm. Uh, Former aims to reduce the block time variance to generalize the proof of work algorithm so that not just one miner, but a bunch of miners could split the block reward for each new block. The Storm protocol is an extension, an improvement over what was called weak block, which was a concept that make it so that between two main blocks, the one that we have currently right now in Nexa, every 2 minutes we have block that all the transactions that are in the mempool and store it in the blockchain, and then move on with the next. During these 2 minutes, a lot of things happen. There is a lot of try by miner find a new block, but not always those tries are good enough to meet the criteria to find a new block. But this doesn't mean that they didn't put work to get those failed. So the basic idea is not to waste that work and make it so that in between two main blocks, there will be a chain of blocks, smaller block that will include transaction and basically are a flow from one main block to the other in such a way that you have gradual process that include many small blocks that give to the transaction that are in the mempool more more trust to them. If a vendor wants to accept them, is he has a way to trust them more than now because they are already included in a sub blocks that eventually will lead to a new block, a new main block. We put those things together and we managed to increase zero confirmation, increase the trust in zero confirmation transaction. We reduce the block variance. We increase the strength of a protocol against a bunch of attacks like selfish mining, withholding attacks. There is a lot of things that we came up with that Tailstorm brings to the table. But this is just like brief summary. The thing that the user will be aware of is that the protocol with Tailstorm improve in terms of robustness because everyone gain a new strength, if you will, once Tailstorm will be activated. Because everyone that accept Nexa as a payment is could be more sure that there wouldn't be any double spend. The mining the incentive structures that keep the system in balance and reaching an equilibrium is strengthened through all the mechanism that I've described before. So everyone is a win-win situation, and you can repeat win for every part. Every part is involved in the system.
Thank you, Sigpik. I think that will help a lot of our community to understand a bit better what Tailstorm actually does and how it's useful for Nexa and for everybody in the Nexa ecosystem. Miners, builders, and basically anybody. So, how does Tailstorm fit into Nexa's long-term vision?
I'll just mention one thing about Tailstorm with the double spend proof, making that even more robust, is that it means that Nexa could effectively be used as a point of sale method, and the merchants don't have any concern about the security of the transaction they've just accepted. So like with the Visa, MasterCard, like pay and wave things where you just pay at the POS terminal, which is now the norm for merchants worldwide, that Nexa would be a viable use alternative for that, is that it would be possible to just pay and the merchant can give out the goods and then not have to worry about the security of the transaction later. So Tailstorm is really important to making that 100% secure for point of sale transactions.
I think that's a great point. Does anybody else wants to add up something?
One further thing which will be of interest would just be that we'll also have effectively fractional block confirmation, so that instead of saying that a transaction is buried under 1, 2, or 3 or 4 blocks, we could say 1.6 or 2.9 or 0.005, etc. So it gives that kind of granularity in the block confirmations as well.
That's really amazing to hear. Yeah. Do you want to say something else?
Yeah, I think that the other point that is pretty important to underline is that with Tailstorm, block reward will be split among miners. There won't be just one miners that will win the lottery. There will be a bunch of them that will contribute to define the new block, and they will be rewarded proportionally to the proof of work they contribute to the to the block itself. This would mean that we will have a system that will be more fair, because there's if you find a fair way to split the reward among the miners that had provided more proof of work to find a block, is better to that having just one miner that take it all, which means that we are more fond we set up the economic incentives in such a way to achieve a more decentralized mining landscape, because there's no like, we lessen the push towards having a winner that take it all for every block, but we substitute that with a set of miners that contribute proof of work to a given block and split the reward among them proportionally to the work that they have contributed.
I really like how Nexa is trying to be fair in all segments. So that's super important so every miner who mines Nexa with a CPU or GPU in the future will have an opportunity to win a reward for themselves. So I think that's really amazing.
Yes, I'd just add to that it actually means that people would get some of the benefits of mining in a mining pool, but just solo mining. So the network itself would apportion out block rewards within the block in that scenario.
Thank you for adding that. So I think that covering this makes it much easier for our community to understand. And I really believe that it's important that our community can connect these technical upgrades with a bigger vision behind Nexa. So one of the most interesting topics after the Tailstorm is, of course, Blitz. So it's and the hardware acceleration. So this is one of those areas where Nexa is thinking beyond the usual software-only approach. So my question here is that how should people understand the idea behind Blitz in simple terms? Why does hardware acceleration matter when we talk about blockchain scaling for real-world use? Anybody who wants to speak about this, feel free to.
I can say a few words about Blitz and what's the whole idea and the purpose behind such a device. So basically, it all come down to the blockchain throughput. So how many events or transactions you can continuously process and synchronize across all nodes on the network. And it basically has a limit of how fast your CPU is that's running the node, and that's kind of limited. Of course, you can have like multi-core implementations and use the server-grade CPUs. But another approach, which is Nexa is taking with Blitz, is to have a specialized hardware that is designed specifically to perform these verifications and to allow the nodes to scale horizontally. So by adding more of these chips, these specialized chips, you can have unlimited throughput per node while your CPU will be mostly idle. And the benefit of this is also power consumption. So the dedicated hardware is more efficient than the CPU, even modern CPUs. So this actually is very interesting because the next post-quantum signatures are very, very efficient on hardware, are much more efficient than like current generation of signatures, which is based on elliptic curves. And this is actually a very interesting and very and a thing that I think in the future will make Nexa really like resilient to quantum attacks. And by using hardware acceleration, we will be kind of negotiating neglect. We would be circumventing, right, the threat that quantum computing poses. But yeah, it all comes down to having dedicated hardware, which is more efficient for the heavy workloads that nodes experience.
Thank you, Arseny. Really appreciate it. I know you're working on Blitz. So can you talk a little bit about what progress has been made on Blitz since last year and what improvements or learnings stand out most from the work done so far?
Yeah, so during the last year, we created several batches of hardware, which we were testing and implementing real algorithms that we managed to basically have a 10 times more power efficiency per operation than a CPU. Unfortunately, though, the total throughput is much less. So with the current technology that we have and the elliptic curve signatures, we can have a very power efficient signature verification, but it's not going to be very fast on reasonably priced FPGAs. So what we learned is basically elliptic curves on FPGAs are not particularly fast, but they can be quite efficient. At the same time, with the standardization of dilithium, we are working towards implementing and benchmarking the dilithium implementations, which, as I said previously, are considered much more efficient to implement on hardware rather than CPUs. Yeah, so I would say this is thing.
Thank you, Arsene. I appreciate your insights. Does anybody else wants to add up something?
Yes, I just say to clarify that the blitz is in two phases. The first phase is the Schnorr signature calculation acceleration of transaction or signature verification for full node networks. And then this phase two would be for it to handle the post-quantum signatures as well, such as dilithium or Falcon, the alternative. And that will follow. We don't know how soon that will be required. If you ask someone like Adam Back, he thinks it's 10 years away, but there are many other people who think it could be as little as 2 years away, the quantum threat. We're kind of jumping ahead in the conversation a little bit, but that is relevant for phase two of Blitz. For phase one of Blitz is the hardware speed up of full node verification of transactions, so we can handle tens of thousands of transactions a second if we want to. We'll have the hardware for that.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate you and Arseni both for your insights. So, can we talk a little bit about what needs to happen before Blitz can be demonstrated in a way people can clearly understand? And what should the regular users or builders understand about Blitz without needing all the technical details?
We have actually had demonstrations working at conferences, but I mean, Arsene, you'll be able to say what the state is with the latest cards?
Absolutely, yeah. So since we've showcased the first version of Blitz in Australia, we've been working on a improved, much more compact version of it, using a more capable FPGA. So it's a really tiny board and it's really densely packed. So right now we are testing it in our labs. So there are some thermal issues because of the high performance of the FPGA, and yeah, the main point is that we've been using similar cards which are readily available and we've been demonstrating the actual implementation, the actual hardware implementation of signature verification with these FPGAs. So that's kind of where most of the work happened during the time. So that's kind of the most complicated part, is to make it work on real FPGAs. And so we are kind of in the final phase where we just trying to finalize the PCB, the product that we can actually present to the community.
Thank you. That's really exciting direction, because it shows how seriously Nexa is thinking about scaling. So I don't think that's just in theory, but it's in terms of real infrastructure and real performance. I think that Blitz will be really a generational device that comes from Nexa. So I think that everybody will love it. So now we move on to the next subject, which is the post-quantum cryptography.
Sorry,
Of
can I just
course.
add something just on the last topic before we move
Yes,
on?
of course.
So the thing that we haven't mentioned is you can see the pattern emerging with the change in the mining algorithm to really connect these two topics together. The change in the mining algorithm to really encourage FPGA mining, and then the work that we're doing with Blitz, which is FPGA signature verifications. And what's Peter Risen touched on it in his article he posted on X a few weeks ago, that bringing these two things together is really part of our vision, in that being able to then actually release, say, a hardware implementation of a full node, the ability to actually process transactions and mine transactions as a full node in a hardware implementation is kind of part of the vision, like being able to, converge these two technologies that we're working on and bring them into a larger long-term solution is part of the aim of what we're working on. So yeah, I think uh, just to add that to sort of bring those last two topics together is something that we are working on.
Thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate this, and this also tells us a lot how forward-thinking we are. I mean, the Bitcoin Unlimited, because everybody thinks just like one step in front, but Bitcoin Unlimited things goes a lot more further than anybody would anticipate. So there is a reason for everything that we are doing. So if anybody else wants to add up something, feel free to, or we move on to the next subject. Okay, so we were about to speak about the post-quantum cryptography. So for some, as Andrew already said, it may feel like a future topic, but it's really part of the serious long-term thinking. So why is it important for Nexa to be looking at this early? Or for some, it's fine to say not early, but maybe even like late, because a lot of recent discoveries has been going in the crypto.
Right, so I'll speak about when Satoshi made the choice of the elliptic curve cryptography. He really wanted a very small signature so he could get as many transactions into each block as possible. And there's nothing really more efficient than the Schnorr signature, which Nexa uses at the moment in terms of the small size required and space saving. But the problem is with the elliptic curve cryptography is it is theoretically possible for quantum computers to crack and get the private key from the public key. But this is something that technically we're nowhere near yet. And no one really knows. It might happen in 3 years, it might happen in 30 years. It's really hard to tell, except that billions of dollars are being spent actually researching this particular technology. And it's just a global arms race for quantum computing. And every day there seems to be new announcements. And I just read this morning about Heriot-Watt University in Scotland that they've used light to handle some transitions in aluminium, which is just a phenomenal display of the potential for photonics technology, which can actually replace electronics because it's 10,000 times faster, and it can also accelerate the development of quantum computers. So they made a breakthrough with photonics technology. Just they announced that in a paper in Nature yesterday. So these announcements just keep happening all the time. So the problem with crypto, of course, is that people have got holdings going back months and years. And where the public key has been exposed, there is a QC risk. So if you have an address on Nexa or Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum, and you've never sent any money from it, and that address has never been used apart from to receive coins, then it's quantum safe. No one can crack it. Even with the world's best future quantum computer, you can't get at it. The risk comes when you spend money and you actually have to make your public key known in the spending transaction. So then it goes into the mempool, and then it will finally go into a block, which might take a few seconds or a few minutes. So when it's in the mempool, there's a window for quantum computer attack, but that is actually a future attack. The real risk is where someone's got an address where funds have been sent. Now, what Bitcoin does, of course, is it moves to a different change address. But if people reuse an address that's been spent from, then that address is basically a sitting duck for the next an advanced quantum computer to crack and move the funds. So the biggest ones at risk are Satoshi's original coins in the first 18 months of Bitcoin. There's 1.1 million Bitcoin, where the public address is not even hashed. And that's basically the canary in the coal mine. As soon as those start getting spent, then we know that someone's created a quantum computer that's large enough and powerful enough to tackle this type of problem. And like I say, it could be anywhere from 3 years to 30 years. No one knows. But one thing that obviously we've seen this year is just the phenomenal power of the latest AIs out of Anthropic and OpenAI and other places. These things are just improving exponentially. So my gut feeling is it's closer to 3 years than 30 years that we'll face a quantum threat to crypto. So what we've got to do with Nexa is support quantum computing resistant signatures. We're called PQC, post-quantum computing. So signatures that are post-quantum computing compliant. There's several that exist. A few have been certified by NIST, which is the US National Institute of Standards there. And one is dilithium, which Sini's mentioned, and another is Sphinx. And Sphinx is no good because those signature sizes are literally 30K compared to, I think it's about 70 odd bytes for a Schnorr signature. So that is absolutely huge and would cripple most cryptos trying to move around 30 KB signatures. So the other two are dilithium and Falcon. Now Falcon's not yet approved, but dilithium is approved. And these are smaller, but they're still quite huge. We're talking about a couple of thousand bytes. So, we're talking 20 times larger than elliptic curve signatures. So that's going to create a huge overhead. And I heard another announcement recently that Solana has implemented Falcon signatures as an alternative. And we've actually done that already. Peter Schipper has created on his own private testnet Falcon signature support with the wallet and everything for Nexa. So that was done 2 years ago. But we haven't got that into live yet. And there's a couple of things. One is that Falcon hasn't been approved by NIST, which we thought would happen in those 2 years. But there's all sorts of side channel attacks that people have found for it because it uses floating point calculations, whereas dilithium doesn't. So it's simpler and there's less attack surface for side channel attacks. And therefore, we've gone down the path of selecting Falcon, creating a working version of the Nexa wallet with Falcon post-quantum signatures. But because it's not certified, we don't really want to go ahead. We're not cryptographers who write our own cryptography. We're blockchain specialists. We want to use proven cryptography. And going back to Satoshi, when he selected the elliptic curve, the SEC-P256K1, he basically chose an extremely obscure algorithm and made it extremely famous by finding a brilliant use case for it. But we can't really push a post-quantum computing signature that isn't certified. So we really want to use one that's certified. Now, Falcon hopefully will be certified either later this year or next year. Dilithium is already. We may have to pivot to dilithium. And what we'll do is we'll put that into the Nexa testnet, and with the hard fork coming up early next year, we'll want to put it into mainnet. Now, all that the users will have to do is move their coins from the existing wallet into a wallet that's secured with the post-quantum signatures. Now, one thing about Nexa being different from Bitcoin is that with Bitcoin, you've got 10-minute blocks. That means that the transactions spend an average of 10 minutes in the memory pool with the public key exposed. And ultimately, and again, it will be quite a few years away, but the quantum computers may well attack the transactions that are in the Bitcoin mempool and create a higher paying fee transaction and publish that, and therefore even address that hasn't been reused. As soon as someone spends the funds, the quantum computer owners or whoever owns them and runs them can grab funds. And the same for Ethereum. And Ethereum's at an even bigger risk because it's an account-based system, so everyone uses the same address most of the time. So there's, a huge reusability, huge concern for Ethereum as far as quantum computers are concerned. But with Nexa and with Tailstorm, we're actually, with our subblocks, it means the amount of time spent in a mempool for exposure to quantum computing attack is really, really small. So Nexa would be one of the last elliptic curve coins to be successfully attacked by QC. They'd be attacking Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, all these other Solana, all these others would be more at risk than Nexa in terms of a mempool attack once we have Tailstorm rolled out, which will be very soon. So that's where we're headed with the quantum computing, and I'm mentioning the signature sizes as well. Where you're talking about a 1 or 2 or 3 KB signature, it means huge transactions. As Arseni has said, once we put those into the FPGA and create a Blitz FPA for post-quantum cryptography, then our full nodes will still be able to handle large volumes of transactions. Whereas other coins, they've pivoted to PQC, find the transactions are absolutely massive and it just cripples all their throughput. So this is where our hardware acceleration fits like hand in glove with our PQC plans.
Thank you, Andrew. I think that these spaces will be legendary because the amount of informations that we have heard here and learned about Nexa, it's really, really phenomenal. And I think Arseni is already working on some implementations. I had an opportunity to speak with him about post-quantum cryptography, and I think that what he's working on is going to be really, really amazing for Nexa. Do you want to say something about it, Arseni?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, as Andrew mentioned, the threat is actually, in case of the blockchain, is actually the so-called Q-day, where the actual relevant quantum computer is can be used. Before that, we don't really risk anything apart from save now and decrypt later attacks, which don't really apply to transactions which happen in real time. So we have time to make sure that our infrastructure is ready for the larger signature sizes, that the algorithms are well standardized, and that's the whole that's the whole plan, is to prepare ourselves. And what we've been doing is trying and benchmarking various types of the lithium implementations in hardware. We've been trying different polynomial multiplication units and different approaches to parallelize the computation, and it's really promising. And in case of these lattice-based schemes, the hardware, as in FPGAs or ASICs, are really, as I said, makes real sense to use them as opposed to CPUs, because they are much better at doing that. So yeah, that's kind of the progress, and we've had some good results in real hardware as well, with the post-quantum signatures, with the number theoretic transform, and all these things running in hardware in the same actually FPGA that is used for Blitz. So it's exactly the same FPGA, but reprogrammed for post-quantum signature verification.
Thank you, Arseny. Really appreciate your insights. Does anybody else wants to add up something before we move on to the next subject? Okay, so now we're moving into something that's going to be much more visible and interactive. So even though I think that protocol work is important, but products and games can help people actually experience what Nexa can do. So the NFT trading card game is going to be one of the more visible and interactive things being worked toward. Beyond the game itself, why is this interesting direction for Nexa? And also, how can a trading game card showcase what Nexa can do with on-chain assets? What can online gameplay, rarity, card rewards, and a dedicated marketplace demonstrate? Whoever wants to speak on this subject, please feel free to.
Yeah, look, I think with the trading game, it brings together not only our NFT capabilities. We're using a reward system that includes tokens, uh, and we're using some of our smart contracts as well, in terms of being able to process post game outcomes. So um, and that is probably exposing more than what we have so far. But the reward sort of algorithm that we're working on at the moment is, when playing the game. So it's a card trading and card battling game. But when playing the game, we're actually putting a number of the cards from both players into a contract, where if you win, you get all your cards back plus one from your opponent, and if you lose, obviously you're getting back one less of your cards. So we're kind of bringing together the NFT capabilities that we have, the token capabilities that we have that are built into rewards as well, and our smart contracts into a gaming experience. Um, so it's currently in testing at the moment with the team. We're finalizing. We have sort of phase one of the graphics and animations done, and we're really accelerating on improving those animations, and kind of polishing the system and the gameplay. But yeah, I think what I find exciting about it is that we're kind of bringing together all the different aspects of capability on the network into one experience.
So when we're talking about the game, do you think that it could help people actually understand Nexa through something that's far more practical and interactive right now, rather than just being the abstract things that we were talking about earlier?
Well, yeah, I think it can, because with it combining NFTs and tokens, like people, not everyone's experienced those in their wallets. Being able to see a token balance in addition to Nexa, being able to see the cards that they're holding, being able to actually send those and trade those entirely independently of the game. While we'll establish a marketplace, and we've built out the marketplace for the cards. The ability just to send those, trade those peer to peer, is perfectly available for everybody to do. So I think what it does also is it can attract we can attract people into the space that didn't necessarily know about Nexa before, um, that can get in, play a game, you know, have NFTs for the first time, have tokens for the first time, have Nexa for the first time, and really start to experience what's possible.
As a gamer myself, I really find this use case to be phenomenal, and it will show people, it will show a lot of people what Nexa is really capable of. So I think that this is exactly why this kind of products matter. Does anybody else wants to reflect on this? Yeah, I think that the way we make the technology like this is basically something that people can actually interact it with, have fun, and also learn about NFTs, tokens, and whatever Nexa is making. So now we move on from this matter to a similar one. So the purpose of this one is basically to make Nexa more accessible. So now we're going to talk a little bit about application examples and simple interactive experience that can help people understand and build faster. So while the roadmap includes multi-platform Nexa enabled apps, starter apps, example games, and simple interactive games. Why is this kind of work important for making Nexa easier to build on? I wish we had Andrew Stone with us. Unfortunately, he's traveling, so I think he'd be a perfect man to explain this. Yeah, but anybody else who wants to jump in, feel free to.
Yeah, I can jump in again. I think there's a lot happening in the space for community adoption. So you notice in the roadmap and the work that we're doing with Bon, making sure that we have libraries and DApp templates and things built in different languages for people to be able to come into the space and pick up these libraries and templates and start building and working on their own implementations. I think the same applies to those multi-platform enabled apps, like having a series of starter apps and starter games and simple games where it's all open source, where people can pick it up and say, I had an interest in building a game, and I really want to do something, innovative with say tokens on chain, and being able to find a starting point to work from, rather than doing it from scratch. And I think it also will help bring people across from other networks. So people with experience in other networks may know, okay, this is how we do it on Solana, or this is how we do it on Ethereum. What's the equivalent? How do I do that on Nexa? So being able to see a lot of this stuff in practice and available for people to pick up and work on top of, I think really helps with that adoption.
I completely agree. Does anybody else wants to add up something?
Yes, it would have been good for Andrew to speak to this. But I think the important thing about multi-platform is that when we can't tell users how to use their Nexa application, some prefer laptops, some prefer phones, some prefer desktops, some might even look at it on the TV or whatever. So having the multi-platform just gives such a variety of usage choices for users, where we only have to write the software once, and that's quite key, because if we have to keep developing for web and then we rewrite to develop for mobile, it's just so much work, so much extra maintenance. It's a real headache. So we are focused on the platform aspect of it, and one of the best languages for that is the Kotlin language, sponsored by Google actually, and the basis for Android as well. we do find that that is a particularly useful one for our multi-platform offerings.
Yeah, I know for a fact that David is making an application that's going to be super interesting. Can you speak a little bit about that, David?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the, it's still a private project. I don't know how much Andrew wants me to get into it, but it's I'm sure at some point we'll put it out there for the community to play around with and test. I think also maybe we look at other options for bringing it to market. It's a predictions market and peer-to-peer betting application that utilizes all smart contracts to lock coins that users wager. So, for instance, betting on the future price of cryptocurrency, sporting events. What the point of the app is it's a proof of concept to display that this can be extended to any sort of prediction or betting use case. More than just predictions and betting, it also displays just how powerful the Nexa smart contracting capabilities are. I think that's one of the things that probably a lot of the people in the community miss, is that with us being a UTXO a UTXO chain, a lot of people probably lack a good understanding of how smart contracts would work in Nexa. And we're definitely going to be coming out with a number of applications that will showcase, just how flexible some of these smart contracts are. And even if we come up with, say an example application that can do something cool, like, peer-to-peer betting, what it does is it exposes a particular use case for Nexa smart contracts. My application in particular, I have a screen on the application where you can go to review the source code of each one of the contracts that are used. And we also have a smart contracting library in the works that will enable developers to basically have access to our compiler, our Kotlin DSL, our Nexa scripting language, all in one library. And so as people see how a smart contract is developed for a particular use case, well, you can extend that. You can come up with your own idea of what type of smart contract you might want for your application and revise the rules, develop your own smart contracts. Again, Stephen mentioned Nexa Warriors. We're going to be using smart contracts to lock group assets, the NFTs. And so each one of these use cases will kind of, highlight another strength of Nexa, in that these contracts can be used for almost anything. You can take traditional finance and you can, make futures contracts. They're really versatile. You can use a contract for almost anything in Nexa. And I think some of these applications coming out are going to highlight just how many possibilities exist using Nexa to, transact through smart contracts.
Thank you, David. I really love what you had to say. I think that variety of the stuff that we're going to push out in the following months and this year is going to be nothing short of phenomenal for Nexa. And I think that's really something that a lot of community should be really excited about. So sometimes the difference between curiosity and actual building is simply having a clear starting point. So I want to move on next, and I think that all of this leads naturally into developer tools. So if you want more people to build on Nexa, the experience has to be understandable, supported, and less intimidating. So for someone listening who wants to build an Nexa but does not know where to start, what should they know about the tools and support being developed around the ecosystem? What makes developer tooling so important for ecosystem growth? Whoever wants to tackle this one, feel free to.
Look, I think the place to start is build on Nexa. So you'll see we put a lot of work into bringing together all the tools that we do have, the libraries that we have, and instructions into a common platform, the build on Nexa site, to really try and fast track people's adoption into building applications. And it's interesting that you say, you know, once you have an idea, uh, the ability to jump in and use those tools and turn that idea into a reality, that the time to market, particularly with the advent of AI and a lot of the AI development tools, it's amazing now how quickly something can go from idea to something functional and usable and reality, within what could be a couple of days as opposed to a couple of months. Um, so I think the Bond set of libraries and tools are really important in that people can, come up with an idea quickly and then come up with an actual solution and a demoable product or use case much faster than they've ever been able to before.
I totally agree. And with the emergence of AI and having the right libraries available for all the builders, is going to be a lot more easier. Yeah, it's rather easy right now, even for non-technical person. You just have to have an idea and have to understand how the AI really works, and you have all the tools on Bond in order to implement and develop your idea further. Does anybody else wants to reflect on this, or we move on?
Sure. I was going to say, in addition to the build on another library that I'm familiar with that is continuously under development is libnexa app, and I believe we have that as a public repository. Yeah. That's going to be another important one as that gets developed further. What libnexa app is essentially a library of functionality where if you want to build an application that interfaces with the Nexa blockchain, that interfaces cleanly with Wally Wallet or Otiplo, um, it's going to be very simple to start a project and basically have all of the functionality just ready to be plugged right in. Wallet connections to the blockchain. I think that's another one that we should highlight a little bit. That is going to make it much easier for builders, developers to come in and create applications on Nexa that are, adhering to a particular standard and all kind of use similar functionality shared across applications. A standardized way to bring a new application to the ecosystem. I think that's another library that eventually will become very important for people looking to build ecosystem apps on Nexa.
Definitely. Thank you, David, for pointing that out. You wanted to say something, Andrew?
Yes, I was just going to say that at Bitcoin Unlimited, we want to generate a whole suite of applications for Nexa across many different product categories and just see which ones can gain traction. But that's really just the part of it. The other part is the Build on Nexa program. And I'll just give a shout out to Shanice De Silva for coming up with that. But Don, you're handling that yourself now, and I think that's a really important program going forward to actually bring in and nurture people who want to come along and create products on Nexa that basically fill out what we've been doing, and eventually, hopefully, the community products will outnumber what we've been able to do at Bitcoin Unlimited, and they'll be able to think of things that we haven't thought of, products, and there we'll have a lot more users and adoption. So it is key to that process. So I'm pleased that, Don, that you're going to be running that. So thanks very much for taking that on. I think you'll do a great job of it. And as you say, David, the libraries, having all those ready and then augmented with AI. So someone has an idea and they can get the AI to help them build. I think that things are going to be on an accelerated time frame from now on.
Yeah, I think that even though Bitcoin Unlimited is always building, I think that if the community starts building and if they have all the tools accessible for them, I think that adoption is pretty inevitable for Nexa, because right now we have all the libraries that are available that are being constantly improved over the time. Plus, with the emergence of AI, it's going to be very, very easy to create a fully functional proof of concept application for Nexa. And even though it might seem complicated in the beginning, it's going to be very, very straightforward process. And I think we're going to work a lot on that in the future, where we can explain to people how they can actually create something useful and how can they implement. And I think especially with David saying that they will have an access to a compiler of smart contracts, I think that's also a huge step for us going forward. Yeah. You also wanted to speak on that, Stephen? If I'm
Yeah,
not...
I just wanted to add to what David said. So libnexa Kotlin is a part of Bon. So the libnexa Kotlin app that David talked about is also something that will be added to Bon, so that we can get access to all those libraries, and that compiler for smart contracts would be available all in the one place for people to get to build.
I just have to say, I think that we have a really exciting future ahead of us, and I'm really looking forward to everything. So I think that these, what we just heard, are super important, because good tools can turn interest into action. So they help people move from simply watching Nexa and being aware of it to actually start building with Nexa. So I think this is a great step forward. So now we move on to one more really, really interesting topic, and that's wrapped BTC on Nexa. So with that, we are going to build something that connects Nexa more directly with the broader Bitcoin and crypto ecosystem. So how could bringing BTC value into the Nexa ecosystem change what people are able to do on Nexa? So how could a wrapped BTC help bring more liquidity and utility into Nexa?
I'll just speak. I'll speak for a moment, Stephen, on this one. The wrapped Bitcoin would be the first wrapped Bitcoin, I believe, on a UTXO coin like Bitcoin itself. But that will mean that we're able to offer that as a base for token exchange and an alternative of value to be held on the Bitcoin network. We can't ignore the fact that Bitcoin still has the majority of the value in the cryptocurrency landscape worldwide. So, 16 years on, 17 years on. So by harnessing a certain amount of that value on the Nexa blockchain, and I know Bitcoin has a certain amount of volatility, but I think that's tolerable for exchange purposes on Nexa. It will facilitate our token exchange and just generally attract new users from Bitcoin to Nexa, because they'll be able to see how much faster it is and also how much more advanced the platform is as well than Bitcoin. So it's also something that we'll take when we go to various conferences. So next time we go to a Bitcoin conference where we have the wrapped Bitcoin available, we'll be able to present Nexa at a stand there and generate interest. So there's a few things like that. Stephen.
Yeah. Look, I'm relatively new to the team, sort of working with Nexa for say the past 18 months. I really just see the Nexa network is what Bitcoin was supposed to be. If innovation had have continued on UTXO, then everything we have on the Nexa network could have been what was built on the Bitcoin network. We are Bitcoin Unlimited. That's where we started. So that actually naturally makes the Nexa network a home for Bitcoin. It unleashes Bitcoin from the network, its native network, onto a network where it immediately gets the 60,000 transactions a second, 80,000 transactions a second, hardware accelerated nodes, smart contracts capable of doing prediction platforms and games. And so all these things that aren't natively available on the Bitcoin network, it immediately inherits by being wrapped Bitcoin on the Nexa network. The other side that really excites me is uh, I see the Nexa network as superior to the Lightning network. Far less complicated. Uh, Everything's on chain. Everything's a transaction on the blockchain, which is what Bitcoin was supposed to be. Not move your Bitcoin onto Lightning and not have those granular transactions on chain anymore. So I really do see it opening up the Nexa network to supercharge Bitcoin, but also provide a realistic alternative and a much more secure and simpler alternative to things like the Lightning network. So hopefully our plans are for a lot of innovation and a lot of continued innovation when we bring Bitcoin onto the network as well. So no, something that's super exciting for me. I'm really looking forward to the possibilities that we open up when we do this.
Those are some really, really strong points, and I really agree that Nexa is what Bitcoin was supposed to be, unfortunately. So I think that adding the wrapped Bitcoin to the Nexa network is kind of going to give it a little bit of that what we have right now on Nexa. So it should achieve what it was probably meant for it to achieve through Nexa. So I think that gives us that puts us into sort of a position that's going to be really, really amazing for the future. Because rather than being just the store of value, Bitcoin is going to become a lot more useful in the Nexa network. So does anybody else wants to add up something, or we move on? Okay, so at the end of the day, none of what we're building can exist in isolation. I think that technology matters, but also community around it shapes how far it can go. So after the first halving, what role do you think the community plays in Nexa's new chapter? So what would you like to see more from the community? And how can non-builders still help the ecosystem grow? What are some small but meaningful ways people can contribute?
Black Tea, perhaps you might want to just talk about what you think about the community's role in Nexa's next chapter, because I know you've got some ideas.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So, an important thing about communities that we need to share more things with them, like we are doing here, because they always asking what the team is working on, and they need information about this. Community can do a big work for the project, like sharing what they learn standing with us. It's important to discuss next features with the community, and users often fail to grasp the significance of the technologies being introduced, and both we, team members, and more experienced users can help with this. Initiating discussions on this aspect can help the community grow.
Yeah.
That's quite right, Black Tea. I think that that growing the community, I mean, it is our number one priority, and I know we have got a lot of people in the community who have gone quiet, or they're still in the channel, but they don't come back at the moment. That's what we're going to try and turn around this year. But especially with the mining decentralization and the new applications coming together, re-energizing the community is a major priority for us.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I think that everybody has the role. So, and it's a really good reminder. Even if you are just a community member that doesn't want to expose yourself in any kind of way, you can still like, share, or repost, or comment. You don't have to engage in the conversation or engage in the discussion, but I want every single community member to know that they are greatly valued, appreciated, and we respect all of them. I know that these last 4 years haven't been the easiest, and that not everybody can understand the long-term goals that we have with Nexa. But I want to really say that a lot of community has been really supportive, even in some of the not so such bright times. And I want to assure everybody, as you could have seen in the almost 2 hours that we are talking right now, that we are listening to the community, and we are going to build stuff for the community so they can enjoy. And we are also going to make Nexa the greatest as it can be, as that is our ultimate and only goal. So we're not quitting until we succeed in that. So I think that's also important to acknowledge and make the community aware of that. Does anybody else wants to add up something, or we should move on?
And if anyone in the community is feeling adventurous, run a full node. Install it. Try and check it out. We've published recently an installation guide across the different platforms. So yeah, give it a go.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I think that pushing the people to install the full node helps actually being Nexa even more decentralized than it is right now. So we're approaching the end. So I think it's and I always like to ask this question because it helps us step out of the present moment and think about the direction we hope to see. So when we meet 1 year from now, what would you hope we are talking about? So what would make the next year feel successful for Nexa? What progress would you personally love to see by then?
It's a big question, and I'm kind of wrapping up everything we've discussed, but a successful hard fork, decentralized mining landscape, and a whole bunch of applications that are running, and maybe one or two of them going viral with people coming in from other coins and around the world, and actually seeing some headlines for Nexa in the crypto news that we're not having to pay for. That would be really good in a year from now. A whole bunch of things that we've been discussing coming true.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else?
Yeah, I completely agree with what Andrew just said. the halving has shown that the plans over the last 4 years have worked and have been flawless in switching over to this latest halving, and our ability to do that same delivery in the application space and in the use cases space is really what we'll be talking about in a year from now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Does anybody else wants to add something? Okay, so now it's been almost 2 hours since we've started, and I think it's a very good moment to start wrapping things up. And I like to give everybody here who's been a part of these 2 hours to leave one final thought for the community. Now that the first halving is behind us, what is the one thing you would like the people to take away from this moment? What message would you like to leave with the community today?
I think my message for the community would just be to keep your eyes on Nexa. Don't disappear and forget about us. Just keep looking back every now and again. And when you're seeing something that you're liking, start using it and get engaged with it. But yeah, keep your attention in this space because things are happening.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would just like to say that I think we're experiencing very interesting times in terms of blockchain technology, and I think Nexa is continuing to be one of the, if not the most advanced crypto based blockchain, and it seems that we are not even started. Yeah, so there's a lot of new developments ahead. So we will keep you updated with the new developments, and just keep an eye on us, on our development, and yeah, we will try to provide updates when something interesting happens in the development as well.
Thank you, Arsene. David, Steven?
Sure. Yeah, I would just say, again, we're at a really interesting point. Like this, having weathered the storm of the first halving epoch and having a major amount of coins come to market during that time, having a bunch of exciting updates coming in this hard fork this year, and a bunch of applications in the pipeline that are like very close to being utilized by the community. I would say this is a project that is still very under the radar, and it's going to be interesting to see when all of these use cases come live on the network. The hard fork happens, people realize that we've been forward thinking as far as quantum resistance, and they just realize the capabilities that Nexa has that a lot of other chains are lacking. I think everybody in this meeting, hopefully in another year or two, will look back and say, I was one of the smart ones. I was involved with a project that nobody else seemed to know or care about at the time, and they probably all wish that they would have been one that is sitting in this meeting right now, knowing far in advance of a lot of other people what's coming down the pipeline for Nexa.
I definitely agree. Do you want to say something, Steven?
Yeah, just to reiterate, watch this space. It's going to be a really exciting 12 months ahead. And we'll definitely keep everybody as updated as we can.
Yeah, You heard it all. You heard it from the people who are really, really serious, who are hardened professional, real experts in their field, and I think that future in front of Nexa has never looked brighter. So thank you for everybody who listened, and thank you for everybody, for everyone from the team for joining. I know that for some of you it's been rather late, and for some of you, such as Steven and Solex, it's been very early in the morning. So I'm really grateful for your help to explain what's currently happening and why it really matters. So Nexa's first halving is now part of its history, and that is something really worth recognizing. But what stood out from this conversation is that the halving is not the end point. It is one milestone in a much bigger journey, and we are all in the same journey. So there's a lot of being built, a lot of being improved, and a lot still ahead. So from protocol work, scaling, developer tools, applications, uh, our community, real world presence, it is very, very clear that Nexa is continuing to move forward. So let's just appreciate this moment, but also keep the focus on what comes next. Thank you all for being here again, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what this next chapter brings.